stage I'm going through right now is very transitional because I'm adjusting from going from doing 20 years of illustration, having painted 200 paperback book covers and having some sort of steady security of the illustration, and now going to a lot of teaching, basic teaching, drawing and painting, and supplementing that with fine art painting or vice versa. So it's really that adjusting to that change along with having a new family. I'm primarily trained as a figurative artist, so my work is primarily figurative. So whether I'm painting interiors or landscapes, I'm always including figures into the environment in some way. You know, having just moved from New York and living in New York City for the past 10 years, that gave me a certain sensibility of what fine art is, and being in more of the urban environment, I was more akin to painting interiors and more darker feelings of the paintings were darker and grayer. And now moving out to California, I think my paintings are becoming, I wouldn't say brighter because I still want to keep that sensibility, but now I'm starting to paint more landscapes, and certainly living out here in the country you would think would inspire that more plein air kind of paintings. I'm actually painting some landscapes, but they're still probably more tonalist, which is darker in feeling, you know, less color still. This is a self-portrait done a couple of years ago. It was my first self-portrait that I can remember anyway, since art school perhaps. And I think one of the motivating factors to be painting my self-portrait so late in life is that I feel like my face was more interesting as I got older. It had a little more lines and character to it. And this one was painted a couple years ago back in New York, in Brooklyn. And I painted it from a mirror with the light coming over my left shoulder. And I painted this in a couple sessions. Since then, the following year, I also painted another self-portrait, and which recently sold in Chicago at the Hilligoss Gallery. And I'm actually in the process of painting another very shortly. So I'd like to make a habit of recording my face perhaps every year or every couple of years. I think that my parents encouraged me to draw and to do art, and I was given that kind of encouragement when I was very young. And then when I continued to draw when I was in elementary school, I was given an encouragement by teachers and my peers. A working professional who did all the graphic arts for the school district, who I was doing some work study with, really encouraged me, and to the point where he thought I should go to his alma mater, which was Art Center, and talk to my parents about having me go to that school to say that I was talented, that it was a feasible way to make a living, which my father was very doubtful of. When I first moved to New York City back in 1990, 12 years ago, my ambition was to become a paperback book cover artist, which over the past, those from 1990 to the year 2000, I painted close to 200 paperbacks, and these are an example of various covers from mainly young adult to adult romance covers. And really, with the advent of computers, I was pretty much driven out of the field. They no longer were interested in hand-painted paintings. They deemed them old-fashioned and wanted a more slicker photographic look of computer-generated art. I named this painting Lettuce Machine. It's from a series of paintings of farm workers I proceeded to make, which I've sort of shied away from this particular subject matter because it seems that people they either hate the subject matter or they love it. And this particular painting was recently exhibited at the Society of Illustrators annual show in New York City. But again, I'm sort of shying away from the subject matter. It just seems to bring out a plethora of emotions from viewers. Either they react very negatively to it or they react very positively to it. And I'm not looking to paint anything controversial, or for that matter with any kind of political agenda, but people seem to interpret it that way. At any rate, it was always a subject matter I always wanted to tackle, which was the farm workers growing up in Monterey County and that whole feeling of Steinbeck. In New York, they generally paint from life, and photography is sort of poo-pooed as a tool. In California or on the West Coast, the artists are much more open as to photography as a tool for realist painting. And for me, when I was painting what I considered fine art realist painting in New York, I was painting primarily from life. And coming out to the West and being influenced by various artists, I started to implement the use of photography. I found that painting from photography is really has been has freed me up.
This one was not done from life. This was done from a photograph. The ones he has painted me from life too, though, and we always end up getting in arguments. So he just paints me from photographs because it's easier that way.
The hardest thing for an artist to do is picking his subject matter. For me, I didn't want to pick such commercial subject matter as a woman picking flowers in the field, or even the subject matter behind me. But I found that by painting, my paintings are largely biographical. By painting the things that I'm familiar with, I felt they certainly had to be sincere. And by painting my wife, or my child, or people close to me, then I wasn't, if I'm painting my wife picking flowers, it's not a commercial venue, because it's certainly, even if it does in some ways, or a nude, look like a commercial subject matter, it's not, because how could it be? Because I'm painting something very intimate to me. So the process of doing a paperback book cover involved doing a photo shoot. The art director would send me a synopsis of the story and a description of the characters, blue eyes, blonde hair, that and so forth, and I go out and book the models from some agency and have a professional photo shoot done with a professional photographer, and I would direct the shoot. From the photographs, I would then do several sketches, at least 2 sketches, sometimes 3. The art director would pick one, and then I would proceed with the final painting. These are 2 examples of a couple of sketches, of which I've done hundreds. Everyone keeps telling me that now that I moved out to the country, that I'll be painting different paintings and capturing this beautiful environment around me. But actually, I don't really think my paintings have changed that much, and I'm probably fighting the change. So if change does occur, it's going to be imperceptible to myself. I'm afraid to paint landscapes because I don't want them to look like what everybody else is painting out there. So in a way, I'm sticking to what I've always been comfortable with, which is trying to just create a mood with my painting, with light, and still sticking to the emphasis on figures. But I think I can't help but be influenced by the environment around me, and it will affect my work. But not in any conscious way. I don't think I'll really be able to see the changes around me until I look back at my work and compare, 5 years back or something. This is our cat, Rachel, and she painted this still life during one of her more inspired moments. Just Like Martin was probably my favorite paperback illustration I did. Primarily because when I got the assignment, it seemed to have some substance to it, rather than a trivial romance cover, or Boy Meets Girl, or a silly young adult. This one actually was written by the actor O.C. Davis, concerning a fictional account based upon the civil rights movements in the 1960s, particularly the bombing of the church and the children. And so I really thought this was something I could really sink my teeth into and do something worthwhile, and I think I was pretty happy with this one. It ended up actually winning an award and being exhibited in the 1996 paperback exhibit at the Society of Illustrators. Yeah, I really think this one worked.
This is our son Martin.
My marriage to Heather has been everything good. I mean, I think I picked I picked the right woman because she was an artist model, and she had a deep appreciation of the arts, and she was the inspiration behind probably. Well, if you look on my website and you look at my paintings, you'll find that she's probably in about 70% of the paintings. So it's anything. It's just been a great inspirational. Uh, it's only affected my artwork in a very positive way, and I think in part of that is having picked Heather as my life partner because I knew that she understood the arts and the path that I was on. This painting was somewhat significant. It was part of a trio of paintings I did, and it's significant mainly because it's one of my first figures in landscapes. Primarily I had done figures in interiors. So figures in the outdoors and how figures are relating to the outdoor environment. This particular painting was painted from, is a picture of my niece out in Big Sur. Having a computer and having email and having it out here in the country, it keeps us in touch with the outside world, with clients, and it's a great way. I really embrace that, but actually, if anything, I've gone the opposite direction in terms of my career and in my art, whereas in illustration, everything has gone more toward computers. To some extent, it is a reaction to the technology. I think in general, I find it somewhat offensive how it's affected the arts, and down from animation to I think the way things were animated in the past were better, and I think the way even in movies, for instance, even special effects, I find that there's something that's a little impersonal about technology and computers that takes away that humanistic quality. And this is an example of one of my still lifes paintings, which I do on a regular basis. Mainly it's just a study of light on form. And for some reason the still lifes seem to sell a lot better than the figurative paintings. Although I really don't, it's not really the subject matter of my choice, but I guess people just don't want a face that they don't know staring back at them. But generally they're better sellers, and for me they're more just practice of painting light on form, which is really what all my paintings are about. Now having the addition of a family, it's a roller coaster ride. Having Martin, is having a child is you just never know what to expect every day, and every week your life situation changes. I do think about the future in terms of beyond my own life. I mean, to create work that'll be lasting beyond my lifetime. And, that just seems to be what's important to me in life, is just to create something that's the best I can do in terms of something that's worthwhile, both in craft and in any kind of emotional quality that I can give to it. So as far as what's happening in the near future, I'm really coming to terms with what it is to be a fine artist and trying to strike a fine balance between the reality of being a fine artist and the ideal of being a fine artist, or the what I want to do and what the world will allow me to do.